Peterbot a Polo prohráli proti týmu, co měl 120 ping, tak jsme na název videa, na které se dneska podíváme. Samozřejmě dejte odběr, like, sdílejte tohle video, jsem tu jediný content kreator, který dělá každý jeden den video a většinou ohledně Fortniteu.
Alright, Pete and Poyo went down off spawn in
tady hned na spawnu umřeli,
of
jo.
their 6 games in the recent Division Cup finals to Velo and Zynox, EU players on 120 plus ping. Not a great look. Now my previous video on this channel was Prime Peterbot and Poyo.
No, jako, to zrovna nevyznělo nejlépe, neuzrál to nejlépe, jo. Název videa, že Prime Peterbot a Polo jsou zpátky a teď tu dostávají výplesk od hráčů z Evropy a ten turnaj se pořádá na NA, jo, takže ti borci z Evropy tam mají 120 ping.
Comment, I take it back.
Okay.
As you notice, the bus path went from west
jako
to east here.
Řekněme si to na rovinu, Peterbot už není v tom Primeu, co byl, v chapter 5, ale stále, když tryhardí, tak se mu daří, ale no ta konzistentnost u něj, no. Nemám pocit u něj, že už zatím jde tak moc jako dřív.
So that means Squibbly Shores is an early drop. So in this first game, both jumped around, wherever, this area. I don't know the actual drop, can't really see it in replays. And then they're gliding in this direction. So what Velo did here is they both landed on this tower to this side, whereas what Pete and Poyo ended up trying to do was like going way further back. And you can kind of see as
Kamo, já jsem slyšel v komentářích, že já celou dobu říkal Polovi Polo, ale on se má vyslovovat jako Poyo, nebo nějak tak, takže jo, sorry lidi, asi jsem mnou vyslovoval třeba rok špatně, ale stále to asi budu vysvětlovat Polo, než Poyo.
Because he's not loaded in, because the replays were early. But firstly, Zynox is lower. And they've got very, very good drops, but also they're trying to land closer. So they're not trying to land on this drop right at the back. They're trying to land extremely close. It's actually Velo, so they land on top of this, drop off, get the floor spawn, and it's an AR. And I mean, you can see already from here that Pete's still way in this guy. Even, to be honest with you, it didn't look like he had a particularly good drop for back here. I don't know where he was like trying to go to.
Takže zatím, co vidíme, tak prostě Velo má hrozně busený tenhle land drop. A ví, jak dropnout, ať tam je rychle, jo?
To land. I know they usually loot off at the backside first, but it didn't actually look like he had a particularly good drop to start.
Protože tady zabil Peterbota. Jakoby čistě na to, že tam byl dřív.
You also have to then consider Muzz. So they didn't actually get both of the eliminations there, if you notice from Muzz's POV. He lands over here and gets the AR. So you notice Poyo has a drop that's way far back.
Jo, to je Poyo.
So I don't actually know where he was trying to glide for here. I mean, it probably wasn't a bad drop if he was trying to land at the same house that Velo and Zynox was. It looks like he's slightly lower, so maybe he was just trying to land on the gun rather than doing the mantle tech that we saw over there. But either way, he's getting out-dropped. Pete also has a bit of a floater who's turning around. But then again, because obviously Muzz has landed first, he's also able to shoot him at this guy. This kind of odd glide that he does.
Takže prostě jakoby zatím, co to víme, tak Polo a Peterbot se spoléhali na to, že to vyhrajou prostě ten fight. Ale neřešil vůbec ten land, jo.
You can't see the damage markers here. Muzz does actually kill him there, of course, and then just get the finish. But that's because they haven't loaded in. So game one, it really kind of seemed like Pete and Poyo just weren't prepared to drop. They didn't have good drops, and Velo's team had significantly better drops and a way better off-spawn strat. Alright, so this game is completely different. The bus path was north to south on the east side. So that means everyone's got quite a long glide going to the west. Now, they usually land at this spot here, because at Squibbly Shores, you kind of take all of this area, so you also get this drop spot. Because if you try to land on Squibbly on this kind of bus path, the team's landing here will just probably kill you, this guy. Alright, so we must do a floater inspection here.
So Zynox
is actually kind of the highest. Pete is the furthest back. I would say Velo has the best drop here. Pete also is kind of tied with that. So maybe Poyo has a slightly better drop. He's slightly further forward. Obviously, kind of depends on where they actually want to land, though. So it does seem like he's going over for the left, but he swerves into the right here to grab the floor spawn and nabs it right before, I think it was at Poyo.
No, jako jestli teď dokáže prohrát Peterbot a Polo tenhle fight, kdy oba dva landli na tu stejnou lokaci, tak to bude trošku ostuda.
Trying to get it. Maybe it was Pete. So he does seem like he's in a bit of an odd situation. Pete comes up, manages to get the one healing, and then Pete runs away. And beautiful lane from Zynox manages to get.
Ale měli zbraně?
So going from a wide POV here, you've got Poyo who managed to kind of hit a mantle over here. Pete goes real low.
Peterbot letěl nikam.
So, to be honest, the drops from Pete and Poyo here not great. I mean, maybe I guess he's aiming for this floor spawn. I actually don't know the floor spawns of this, so. Either way, for Pete, landing super low and then going for like...
Jako Peterbot, to má nejhorší land, protože Velo i ten Zynox už jsou blíž ke dveřím, blíž ke všemu.
Like
ale ten Polo má jakoby dobrý.
But that's the one that Zynox ended up flying in for.
Tam nesil možná dojít. pro tu
way that they've
pistolku.
landed here also then gives them kind of control of this building. See, Velo went for this chest over here, then Zynox covered this side, so they've kind of got this building cut off here, where they can run in from either side and get a pinch, right? So one person kind of misses the gun, they can come through, get a floor spawn, wherever it may be. That's not how they actually ended up playing it, but it seems like, you know, they're controlling over this. Pete then jumps up. He still has no gun, but Poyo obviously has managed to we grabbed the floor spawn from there, grabbed something, and then jumped over. So Pete doesn't have a gun, because it got nabbed. Poyo has a pump
zelenou
only.
pumpu, jako on má zelenou pumpu, no, já jsem chtěl říct, že má plná HPčka, že by to mohl vyfajtit, ale tady dostal velký hit, proto vlastně asi opak umřel. To dostal.
Nice edit, but look at this
hezký
hug.
edit.
That's a beautiful hug from Velo, and then he misses, of course, unfortunately.
Tady za 86.
1v2. Nice other shot to hit the 86, but of course it's just over.
Bohužel, jako možná, kdy to nedostal ty hity s tou pistolkou, tak ta šance by tam byla větší pro Poja.
Kind of. However, this means they're not going to be able to get shot by Muzz out the sky just based on this buff, because the previous one's like down here, which means Muzz lands first. With this, I think they're not going to have as much of a problem with that. Maybe some of these teams will be able to shoot them out of the air, though. All right, so this game is played out slightly different, but Peterbot and Poyo did not go all the way to the back. This time, Poyo tried to land in, you can see over to the far left there. Pete landed up into this house, right, over here, so he doesn't die out the sky, and then Velo and Zynox both again went to his right side, which even though they were flying from this side, it's kind of risky. I don't know if there's a floor spawn Pete could land on to kind of shoot them out of the sky.
Jako když si vezmeme, že oni jsou všichni tak tři u sebe, v tom stejném městě a Poyo je vlevo za tou vodou.
But even with Poyo landing down here, I think it's kind of risky landing on that side. Again, I don't know the drop spot like super duper well, so whether or not that's a good or bad play, I can't say straight away. But this game, they basically end up splitting and then dipping. So most importantly to note here is that Zynox and Velo were not griefing by any means. They took the loot and then they dipped up north and then they played out their game. Pete and Poyo also played out the game from this with a 2 gold.
Teď říká, že ten Velo a Zyno utekl z té lokace a pravděpodobně já si myslím, že utekl, protože věděl, že ten fight by nemusel dopadnout úplně dobře pro něho, kdyby šli 1 nebo 2v2 na Americe proti Peterbotovi, jo, to je nejlepší hráč a jít tam, asi by nedopadlo dobře a pokud ten fight nevyhrajou přímo na landu, tak asi ani nepotřebují to fightit, jako ten duo fightit, jo, spíš prostě chcou hrát na ten win a je to asi jakoby chytřejší, no.
And it wasn't a fantastic game. I think they got 4 elims in like 20th or something like that. It's not a great game for them, but they did manage to split in this match. So they're not just like full aggressive keying each other, griefing, whatever it may be. They're just getting loot and then going. Alrighty, this game number 4. This is a Pete and Poyo win. Spoiler. But again, it's another north to south. Again, another very similar
Poyo
to game
říká, že
number 2.
vyhrál.
To try and land on this spot rather than
tu hru myslel.
Alright, this game they do get severely outdropped. So it looks like you can tell that Zynox is kind of heading for the same way that they did in game 2, right? They have this in mind, but as you notice, he swung and looked to the right there, and Pete and Poyo were gliding right. So as they're going for it, they've been severely outdropped by Pete and Poyo this time, so they've got a way lower drop. Whether that's too low, I'm not sure. I mean, it doesn't look like it because they end up winning off spawn. Doesn't see from Poyo's POV. So it doesn't look actually like he's almost too low, but they slide, grab the chest first, and he gets an AR right off the rip, and Velo goes down. Obviously, he's getting 2v1'd off spawn because another player guy, so not ideal drops this time. Good job spending the time to make sure
Takže zatím vyhrál v ten fight vždy ten, kdo byl první na tom landu. A Zynox se zabil pak.
Number 4, I mean, every game basically so far has just come down to drops. Like, Pete and Poyo had good drops here. Maybe potentially a little risky too low, because if that one chest doesn't spawn, I think both of them kind of get nothing. I don't know what the strat is again, I'm not 100% looked into it yet.
Takže, aby jsme to pochopili, tak vlastně oni vyhráli jen ti, co tam landli první, jo? Jakmile tam landneš později, tak ten fight je pro tvé hrozně už prohraný.
However, at the same time, you know, Zynox's drops were a little too high, so they had to swerve and then ended up dying. Alright, game number 5 is very, I want to say controversial, it's really not, but it is quite funny. Darm and Demush were landing next to him, dies out the sky here. And you see Demush does not revive him straight away, goes to third party here. And everyone's like, oh my god, he's teaming.
Jako asi mi to mohlo napadnout, když jsem mluvil o Peterbotovi, ale čekal jsem, že to třeba bude někdo jiný.
He didn't shoot Velo, there's no way, why would he do this? He's just griefing people.
Jo, takže on teď říká, že nestřílel Vela, ale střílel jeho teammatea. A teď ten Demus hituje Peterbota, no. A Peterbot nenokuje hned.
Before reviving his boy Darm. You can see from Velo's POV, that kind of allows him to get the elim, right? He manages to get this floor spawn, hide behind here.
Má hned modrou pistolku.
And he's playing like a nice, I was going to say nice round, Peak is kind of jumping.
Jako Peterbot dostal vložně z boku.
By Demush on the right there.
Tam, okay.
And allows Velo to get the kill. And I guess the theory here is that Oh, Pete would have won 100% if he wasn't third-partied. Gets the Elim, which gives him the pump then. And obviously the Siphon match, which is obviously very important too. Poyo jumps on top. Hits the accidental mantle, which is not ideal. And then Velo manages to get both Elims. What's funny about this is that everyone's like, man, why is Dimush teaming with Velo? Firstly, you can see that he looked at him. Like, do you really think that anyone can see the skin?
Ne, to snad... On tady říkal, že lidi říkají, že týmuje s Velem, ale to absolutně neupadá v úvahu, jo. Reálně, já si myslím, že on tam střílel po tom, co zrovna viděl.
This distance. I mean, maybe they can. I can't. My eyes don't work that far. Gets the Elam onto Peter Ball. I don't know if he's on normal mode or whatever. And everyone's like, oh, there's obviously teaming. These guys are both EU. I mean, firstly, I'm being American and clustering every EU team together to say they are teaming, rather than seeing which regions of EU team with each other. Notoriously, the Polish, they team with one region, and that's Poland. I don't think they care about Belgium and UK. Let's be honest here. That they're not super close friends. So obviously you've also got to think Darm's dead at the sky, or knocked out the sky, which is minus 100 surge. So there Dimush gets a bit of surge by getting, what, like 70 damage, and then gets this back. So the fact that Darm has managed to go down off spawn means that he's now able to get a little bit of that net surge back just by getting the tags and running away. So this is not a teaming scenario. I also saw people say this doesn't count for the scoreboard because they got third-partied, as if Velo didn't get third-partied in the previous game where they had to swerve all the way down to Squibbly. That doesn't matter in the off-spawns, let's be real. In the final game...
Tohle je finální hra.
I don't know what the plan is here. I don't know if they're trying to grief some team or something like that. It's a kind of classic Pete Poyle.
Ale Peter vypadá po jinou lokaci. Úplně jinou.
That means Zanok and Velo are the best team ever.
Tím pádem Velo tam má svoji lokaci úplně za free a Peter odletěl někam jinam. Podle mě reálně tam šli jen buď dvě teorie, no spíš jedna u Peterbota si myslím. Jedna by mohla být to, že to chtěl zahrát víc na safe a ví, že tam, kdyby neměl nejlepší land, tak by mohl umřít, ale to si nemyslím. Spíš si myslím, že tam chtěli někoho griefnout, no.
See, this means Pete and Poyo are the worst team ever. They got slapped around by an EU team who's never made grands. They didn't drop 17 eliminations in the one game.
Oni tam mají nejvíc skillu snad. Takže ultra moc skillu.
Spawn by any means. They definitely didn't go insane. It very much so seems like Pete and Poyo were not practiced off spawn that well. I don't know how often they've been contested at all at this drop spot, but so far it just doesn't seem like they were prepared.
No hlavně Peterbota se nikdo ani neskouší moc kontestit, jelikož měl takovou tu auru kolem sebe, že to fakt nechtěl jít kontestit. A teď jí prolomil dost clicks, myslím.
To fight a team who's had good drops, which given the summit is like this week as of recording this, not the best sign, because obviously there's probably going to be a team. You can just talk about some teams landing there, so hopefully they end up figuring out what they're going to be doing off spawn.
No nic, tam už nic zajímavého říkat nebude. Děkuji moc za sledování tohoto videa. Jestli tě bavilo a chtěl bys podporit moji každodenní tvorbu, stačí mi dát jen odběr. To je největší pomoc v mojí tvorbě. Zatím čau.